The invasion begins. The aliens' smug, arrogant smiles vanished in an instant as the human transmission crackled through the council chambers, shattering their dreams of conquest and filling their hearts with a fear they had never known. I am Peter Wilson, Director of Terran Defense. Earth is off limits. Any act of aggression will be met with overwhelming force. The council members stared in shock at the human's holographic visage. He looked primitive, weak. How dare he presume to dictate terms to the Galactic Empire? Izar, the ruthless Daxamite ambassador, who had been leading the charge for invasion, slammed his fist on the table. These humans are nothing. We should enslave them all and take their resources for the glory of the Empire. But as Wilson continued, a creeping dread began to fill the room. You believe us primitive because we have not yet mastered interstellar travel. But while you expanded outward, we expanded inward, unlocking technologies you cannot fathom. Our scientists have harnessed artificial black holes as power sources. We have inertia-negating engines that allow near-light speed travel, self-replicating nanobots that can disassemble ships or planets in mere hours. Murmurs of disbelief and fear rippled through the council. It had to be a bluff, didn't it? You think your command center's location is secret. To prove we are not bluffing, Wilson rattled off a string of coordinates. The Grand Counselor paled, his eyes going wide. Those were the exact coordinates. How could they possibly know? A hissing sound filled the air. Council members leaped to their feet as a microscopic wormhole opened in the center of the chamber. A cloud of shimmering nanobots poured out, swarming over the walls, which began to disintegrate before the council's terrified eyes. Then, as abruptly as it began, the disintegration stopped. The nanobots crumbled to inert dust. A small demonstration, Wilson said coolly. Our defense grid can detect and neutralize your ships light years from Earth, but we have no interest in war. Leave us in peace, and we will not trouble you. Persist in this foolish course, and he smiled coldly. I will leave you with this. Humanity does not start fights, but we will finish them without mercy or hesitation. Earth is our home. Threaten us, and we will unleash hell the likes of which you cannot imagine. The choice is now yours. The transmission ended. A deafening silence filled the chamber, the council frozen in a tableau of shock and horror. Earth, a world they had dismissed as primitive and ripe for conquest, possessed technology that dwarfed their own. Technology that could devastate them effortlessly. But as the fear settled, a new emotion emerged: greed. Earth's secrets could propel the Empire to unimaginable heights of power if they could take the human homeworld swiftly enough. Izar, eyes gleaming with avarice and ambition, broke the silence. They lie. They must. No primitive species could have such capabilities. I say we call their bluff and seize their world and technologies for the Empire. Strike hard and fast, and they will crumble. The council erupted into frenzied debate, fear and greed warring in their hearts. The Grand Counselor called for order, his voice trembling. We must vote. The fate of the Empire hangs in the balance. The Battle of Earth. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Shouts of disbelief and outrage echoed off the walls as the implications of Wilson's words sank in. Some called for caution, urging restraint in the face of an unknown foe. But Izar would not be dissuaded. He thumped his hand on the table, his voice rising above the din. We are the Daxamite Empire. We bow to no one, least of all some upstart primitives from an insignificant backwater. Emperor Zoller, I beseech you, let me lead our forces to crush these insolent humans and seize their secrets for the glory of the Empire. Emperor Zoller rose from his throne, his eyes glinting with malice and greed. You shall have your chance to prove yourself, Izar. Take our finest warships and bring me Earth. Izar wasted no time. He raced to the staging grounds where the Empire's most formidable ships were docked. Row after row of gleaming warships dripping with weapons that had subjugated 100 worlds. Izar strode to the flagship, barking orders, driven by a burning need to humble the arrogant Terrans. As the mighty Daxamite fleet surged towards Earth, consoles suddenly lit up with urgent warnings. Sensors had detected an unknown force waiting at the edge of the solar system. Izar stared in disbelief at the holographic displays. A band of matte black ships hung in space, tiny compared to the Imperial Armada bearing down on them. Izar sneered. This was Earth's vaunted defense, a pittance against the might of the Daxamites. Full attack. Izar roared. Wipe them from the stars. The Daxamite ships opened fire, a storm of destructive energy strong enough to reduce continents to molten slag. But as the salvos reached the Terran fleet, they simply vanished, swallowed by an invisible barrier. The human ships emerged unscathed, sleek and deadly against the starscape. Before Izar could process this impossibility, the Terran ships retaliated. Lances of pure black, like holes punctured in the fabric of space itself, stabbed out at the Daxamite fleet. They pierced shields as if they didn't exist, boiling through hulls and detonating ships from within. Izar gaped in horror as his armada crumbled, their defenses useless. The human ships darted and wove through the destruction with a fluid grace, as if the physics of inertia held no sway over them. Wilson's image flickered to life on the monitor, his expression grim. "This is your final warning, Daxamite. Withdraw or be destroyed." Izar snarled in defiance. "Never. We will never yield tow." The bridge suddenly lost power. The ship lurched sickeningly, as if caught by some immense unseen force. Damage alerts wailed, and Izar felt his gut clench as he saw the readings. A black hole had opened up nearby, and his ship was caught in its gravity well. But that was impossible. He whirled as the bridge doors opened. Wilson stepped through, flanked by a squad of human soldiers in midnight black armor. They moved with unsettling speed and fluidity, their weapons trained on the bridge crew. "Your fleet is lost, Izar. Surrender and order your forces to stand down. You will face trial for your crimes against humanity." Izar edged his hand towards his sidearm. He would not be dictated to by these primates. As his fingers closed around the grip, a super soldier moved, crossing the distance between them in a blur. A meaty fist crashed into Izar's skull like a meteor impact, pulping flesh and bone. Izar crumpled, his face caved in, dead before he hit the deck. Wilson signaled his troops, and they vanished in flares of light. Moments later, the Terran ships pulled back, leaving the shattered remains of the once proud Daxamite armada drifting amongst the stars. The aftermath. Empress Valor paced the halls of her palace, barking orders to contain the spreading unrest. When news of the disaster reached the Daxamite systems, shock and horror gave way to riots and open revolt. Emperor Zoller was dragged from his throne by a furious mob. She activated a comm channel, steadying herself. "This is Empress Valor. I hereby assume control of the Daxamite Empire. My first act is to sue for peace with the Terran people. All hostilities will cease immediately. Any further acts of aggression are expressly forbidden." As the transmission ended, Valor gazed out at the stars, wondering what this new age would bring. The Daxamites had been humbled, their arrogance shattered. The galaxy had shifted on its axis. Far away, Peter Wilson walked through cheering crowds, waving to the citizens of the world he had helped defend. He could see the questions in their eyes, the awe, and the hint of fear. He knew this was only the beginning. Behind closed doors, clandestine councils convened, shadowed figures traded whispers. Some saw Earth as the key to unrivaled power, their technology a prize to be claimed at any cost. Others looked upon a new threat rising, already planning the Terran's downfall. In the halls of power and the chambers of intrigue, a new game had begun, with Earth as the prize. The future was uncertain, but one truth was clear to all. The galaxy would never be the same again. Peter Wilson wiped sweat from his brow as he hunched over a disassembled Daxamite engine. The cavernous lab hummed with activity as his team pored over the alien technology. "Sir, you need to see this," called Dr. Chen, waving him over to a holographic display. Wilson's eyes widened as he studied the schematics. Their power generation is completely different from ours. It's like comparing a steam engine to a nuclear reactor. Exactly, Chen nodded. But look what happens when we integrate our inertial dampeners with their propulsion systems. The simulation showed a ship achieving speeds far beyond what either technology could do alone. Wilson's mind raced with the possibilities. Get R&D on this immediately. I want prototypes within the month. As Earth scientists delved deeper into alien tech, the Galactic Council convened. The massive chamber was packed, filled with representatives from 100 worlds. The Alliance and the Betrayal. The massive chamber was packed, filled with representatives from 100 worlds. The humans must be contained, bellowed the Relian ambassador, his tentacles writhing. Their weapons could destroy us all. And become the next Daxamites, countered a small furry delegate. I say we reach out to them. The enemy of our enemy is our friend. Shouts and arguments filled the air. In the shadows, deals were struck, and alliances formed. On the Alterian homeworld, Peter Wilson stepped off his shuttle, flanked by Jack Reese and a small security team. The spires of the alien city gleamed in the purple light of twin suns. Welcome, honored guests, purred an Alterian diplomat, her iridescent skin shimmering. We have much to discuss. Wilson nodded cautiously. Indeed we do. The meeting proceeded smoothly. The Alterians shared breakthroughs in genetic engineering that left Wilson's team in awe. But as they toured a high-security lab, alarms blared in Wilson's mind. Now, shouted an Alterian scientist. Vents hissed, releasing a green mist. Gas. Reese yelled, reaching for his weapon, but it was too late. The humans collapsed, choking. Wilson's vision swam. He felt a fire in his veins, his cells screaming as the virus rewrote his DNA. Then something snapped into place. Power surged through him. He leaped to his feet, smashing through a steel door like it was paper. Around him, his team was undergoing similar transformations. What have you done to us? Wilson snarled, lifting an Alterian by the throat. Impossible, the alien gasped. You should be docile slaves. Wilson tossed him aside. Jack, we're leaving. Now. They fought their way to the hangar, their new strength and speed making them unstoppable. Reese hotwired an Alterian ship, and they blasted off into space. Back on Earth, Wilson wasted no time. He assembled a strike force, equipping them with reverse-engineered Alterian biotech. The assault on the Alterian homeworld was swift and brutal. Wilson's enhanced troops cut through their defenses smoothly. Within days, the Alterian leadership was in chains, their world occupied. As news of Earth's latest victory spread, the galaxy reeled. On 1,000 worlds, generals pored over star charts, plotting invasion routes. Diplomats whispered in back rooms, forming coalitions. And on Earth, the first Alterian refugees arrived, seeking shelter from their own people. The debates raged fiercely. We can't trust them, shouted protesters outside the United Nations. It could be another trap. But Wilson stood firm. We will not turn away those seeking freedom, he declared to the world. Earth must be a beacon of hope in a dark galaxy. As Alterian scientists integrated into Earth's labs, humanity's technological growth exploded. New medicines, faster than light drives, weapons that could shatter planets. In the corridors of the Galactic Council, fear turned to panic. The humans grow too powerful, whispered a cloaked figure. We must act now, before it's too late. But others counseled caution. Perhaps we can still find a peaceful solution, an elder statesman argued, before this Cold War turns hot. All eyes turned to Earth, to Wilson. The fate of the galactic realm hung in the balance, and the greatest challenges were yet to come. The final confrontation, the aftermath of the Alterian incident, sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Galactic Council, once dismissive of humanity, now viewed Earth as a grave threat. Emergency sessions were called, filled with heated debates and accusations. These humans are too dangerous to be left unchecked. shouted the Relian ambassador, slamming a tentacle on the podium. "We must bring them to heel before it's too late." After days of deliberation, the Council issued its ultimatum to Earth: submit to their authority or face dire consequences. Peter Wilson stood before the United Nations, his face grim as he addressed the assembled world leaders and billions watching via holofeed. "The Galactic Council demands our subservience," he declared, his voice steady. "They would strip us of our hard-won sovereignty, reducing Earth to a vassal state. I say no. We will not bow. We will not yield. Earth stands free." Cheers erupted from the assembled delegates, echoed by crowds in cities across the globe. But celebration quickly gave way to grim reality as the Council's retaliation hit home. Trade routes were severed. Human ships were barred from alien ports. The flow of vital resources from off-world colonies slowed to a trickle. Wilson pored over reports in his war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing dwindling stockpiles. "We need to think outside the box," he muttered. That's when inspiration struck. He authorized a bold plan: a fleet of stealth mining ships to harvest resources from uninhabited systems beyond Council space. The ships slipped past patrols, their advanced cloaking technology rendering them invisible to sensors. Months passed. Earth's economy stabilized as new materials flowed in. But Wilson knew self-sufficiency wasn't enough. They needed allies. Enter the Zuri Collective. These cyborg beings had long chafed under Council restrictions on cybernetic enhancement. They saw in humanity a kindred spirit and a valuable resource. Wilson met with the Zuri ambassador, a being more machine than flesh, in a secret facility beneath the Atlantic. "Your bioengineering capabilities are intriguing," the ambassador stated, its voice a metallic hum. "We propose an exchange: our expertise in cybernetics and AI for your genetic innovations." Wilson nodded, a sly smile crossing his face. "I believe we can come to an arrangement." The fruits of this alliance soon became apparent. In hidden labs, human scientists worked alongside Zuri engineers, pushing the boundaries of what was possible when flesh met machine. Jack Reese volunteered to be among the first test subjects. He lay on an operating table, surrounded by a dizzying array of equipment. "You sure about this, boss?" he asked Wilson, who stood nearby. Wilson placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We need every edge we can get, Jack. You'll be leading the charge." The procedure was grueling, but the results were undeniable. Reese emerged faster, stronger. His mind interfaced directly with advanced combat systems. His Havoc Squad, similarly enhanced, became a force that could rival entire alien armies. But Wilson knew they needed more than just soldiers. They needed a way to bypass the Council's blockade. The Zuri provided the key: coordinates to an unstable wormhole near their territory. Under the cover of night, construction began on a massive fortification around the wormhole. Stealth ships ferried materials and personnel through the spatial rift, establishing forward bases in distant sectors of the galaxy. The Council, growing desperate, attempted to lure Wilson with honeyed words. A secret communique offered him a seat among their ranks if he would only stand down. Wilson's response was succinct: "Earth bows to no one." Frustrated, the Council resorted to more direct action. Assassins and strike teams were dispatched to eliminate the troublesome human leader. They never stood a chance against Earth's new defenses. In the halls of the Galactic Council, tempers flared as the failures mounted. "We must take more drastic action," insisted a faction of hardliners. They spoke in hushed tones of the Pion virus, a weapon of unimaginable destructive potential. "That's madness," protested a more moderate voice. "It would be genocide." As the Council bickered, Wilson sought his opportunity. He gathered his most elite forces, hybrid super soldiers led by Reese's Havoc Squad. Their target: the Pion superweapon facility itself. The assault was surgical and swift, bypassing the Council's defenses via the wormhole. Wilson's troops seized control of the facility before the aliens even realized they were under attack. Wilson stood on the command deck, the awesome power of the nanite swarm at his fingertips. He opened a channel to the Galactic Council. Your sanctions have failed. Your assassins have failed. And now your super weapon is under our control. Wilson's voice boomed across countless worlds. Here are my terms. Earth will have its sovereignty. You will not interfere in our affairs. Refuse, and I will unleash this weapon. You have one galactic standard day to comply. Panic gripped the council chambers. But even as they debated their response, an encrypted message raced across the stars. It originated from Earth itself, sent by a group opposed to Wilson's actions. Help stop Wilson before he destroys us all. The galaxy held its breath, awaiting the council's decision. The next move would determine the fate of countless civilizations. The Galactic Showdown. The encrypted message flashed across Zero's screen, its contents igniting a spark of vengeful glee in the renegade Daxamite commander's eyes. He leaned back in his chair, a cruel smile playing across his scared face. Well, well, he muttered. It seems the humans have given us a golden opportunity. Zero's fingers flew across the holographic interface, sending out coded transmissions to every mercenary captain and outlaw warlord who owed him a favor. Within hours, a ragtag fleet of ships began to assemble in the shadow of a gas giant on the fringes of known space. Meanwhile, on the Peon facility, Peter Wilson paced the command deck, the weight of his ultimatum hanging heavy in the air. Holographic displays showed the Council's fleets holding position just outside weapons range, a Mexican standoff on a galactic scale.